a structure whose outer surfaces are triangular that converge at a top, making a single step. This is what we call a pyramid.
To Egypt now, where officials have revealed the discovery of a long corridor is
The pyramids of Egypt are ancient masonry structures that are located in the country called Egypt. 118 of these have been cited by sources, and they say 80 of these are located in a country called Sudan currently, and it was called Kush in the old periods of kingdoms. And those that were located in Egypt were known as tombs for kings who had died at that time, for pharaohs and other people who were working with pharaohs. They used to be buried in these tombs, and these tombs had pyramids built around them. This is how pyramids began to arise in that old kingdom age. Now, what's funny about these pyramids? Their shape. When we look at the shape of the pyramids, we always see this shape in movies. We see the shape everywhere. What does this shape mean? The shape of pyramids represents the sun rays descending from heaven, from up to the earth. This is how the shape of the pyramids. And the people who lived at that age of Old Kingdom age believed that pyramids were thought to represent primordial mound, the first mound that ever existed, primordial mound that was used to create the earth on which you live right now. Pyramids are thought to represent rays descending from the sun. That's why we see most of the pyramids are polished with limestone, and they are highly brilliant, highly polished to represent a brilliant color, so that you can see them from a distance. When you are walking towards them, you can see them from a distance. We are still wondering, are pyramids really tombs where pharaohs were buried, or are pyramids something else? But there is one suggestion that says these pyramids were designed as a type of resurrection machines, whereby pharaohs were put in these machines to resurrect or to connect with life after death. This is why people at that time believed. They used to bury people in those tombs, believing that after dying they are going to be connected to the afterlife, the next life after death. In 1842, a man called Carl Lepsius came out with his complete list. In this list, he said that the earth has about 67 pyramids, and he cited 67 of them. Among the list of Carl Lepsius, the Lepsius list, we come to know that he discovered Pyramid 29, and he says this pyramid got lost for the second time. And in 2008, archaeological digging was done, and this pyramid was again discovered because it had been buried by sand in the desert. This means that there are a lot of pyramids that are in a poor state of preservation. Most of the pyramids have got lost. Why are they getting lost? Because the place where they exist has a lot of sand, and this sand comes and buries these pyramids. So we are losing a number of pyramids. But we shouldn't worry, because archaeologists are digging and digging each and every day, coming about with new pyramids that we didn't know that existed in Egypt. All the pyramids of Egypt, except that of the Third Dynasty pyramid, are located along the River Nile bank, and they are listed geographically from north to south along the River Nile. Pyramids of Egypt are ancient monumental structures that were built to help kings and pharaohs that existed at that time to be buried in these structures, and they are fascinating archaeologists, tourists, and many people in the world. People are wondering what's in these pyramids, and we are coming to discover that pyramids represent architecture structures that show that engineering had begun to develop by that time, because the way they were constructed is very, very fantastic. When you reach at these pyramids, you just discover that people who existed at that time were architectural, because they used a lot of brain to work on these structures. The way they constructed them, the materials they used, everything they used was fascinating. So let's continue to unravel this mystery. And they were believed that if pharaohs were buried in these tombs, they were able to connect to afterlife if they were buried in these tombs. So a lot of people believe this. So pharaohs were able to be buried in these tombs. We have the pyramid of Giza. One of the notable pyramids that we know that exist, we have the pyramid of Giza, which is also known as the pyramid of Khufu, a pharaoh that existed by that time. The pyramid of Khufu is one of the largest pyramids in the world right now. It originally stood 146 meters tall and it's now 138 meters tall after being eroded and some stones being removed for other activities of building other structures that are important in the country. Adjacent to the Great Pyramid is the Pyramid of Khufu that is just even smaller than the Pyramid of Khufu. The pyramid, or a tomb whereby this son of Khufu called Khufu was buried after he died. And the smallest of these three is the pyramid of Munkaure. It was also a pyramid of another pharaoh in Egypt. It's the smallest of these three and it's also just adjacent to these two pyramids. The precision and complexity of the pyramids represents how wise the architects of that time were. The architecture and engineering knowledge they used is very, very, very high, because the way they constructed this, the way they the way they made these structures is very, very massive. It's very, very wonderful. As workers at that time used copper and wooden sledges to construct these pyramids. They used to carry blocks, they used to carry limestone, they used to carry a lot of material to construct these. And even though they lacked modern construction tools, they were able to align the cardinals north, south, east and west along these pyramids. Guys who constructed these pyramids at this time, they used to carry limestone and they used to put it on ramps and carry it, weighing several tons of kilograms, 7 tons of weight. They used to carry these limestone blocks and bring them for construction of these pyramids. Is it really true that these pyramids were used as tombs for pharaohs and their nobles that existed at that time? Because we look at the noble families that existed at that time. They were buried in these tombs after death, and people believed these as symbolic and religious things, that whereby if a king or a pharaoh was buried in this tomb, they believed that his afterlife was going to be very successful. He's going to transition from the current life to the next life after death. They used to believe that the transition is going to be a successful one after the king is buried in such a tomb. Just because the shape of these pyramids showing that the rays are descending from heaven to the tomb, they used to believe that this is going to be helping the king to connect his soul with the divine. The pharaoh's soul is going to connect to the divine very, very successfully. Due to challenges that have been going on the earth, and people have been able to transition from old ways of burying people to new techniques of burying people. Pyramids have been losing sense right now, and people are no longer preserving them the way they used to preserve them, and we are losing a number of these because a number of materials are being removed from these pyramids and being used to construct other structures in the country of Egypt, and this has made the inner core of the pyramids to be exposed. So what's the government of the country Egypt doing right now? They're trying to preserve these pyramids because these are used as tourist attractions in the country, and they are earning a lot of money for the country because tourists come from very many countries to come and see these pyramids. Therefore, the country of Egypt is attracting a lot of money, millions of money to the country's tourism industry. A lot of money is being attracted. So a lot of researchers are doing research to find out what is really in these pyramids, what techniques were used to construct them, what architecture is behind these pyramids. Can it help us in this modern day technology? Can we apply some of the techniques that were used at that time? So if you are new to the channel, why don't you subscribe? Why don't you subscribe for such enigmas? I'm going to be unraveling many more enigmas. Subscribe to the channel. I'm your host Dominic Mu. Let's meet in another fascinating enigma. Bye bye.